Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are absolutely not alone. Here at Invisible Condition, we know life can be interesting. We know life can be tough sometimes. We get it. I get it. You for those of you that have been watching for a while, you get this too, man. You understand my story. I got 7 brain surgeries under my belt, man. Life can be interesting sometimes. It can be rough. We also know that there's always hope. Always hope. And so that's where we choose to live here, is in the land of hope. Join us, won't you? If that's foreign to you, it's really nice here. Hope is a beautiful thing. So join us. Now, I want to talk about one or two things real quick before we bring on our guest today. One is our nonprofit, which is called Hydro with Hope, and that nonprofit is focused on individuals and families that are living with a condition called hydrocephalus, which is what I was born with, and that's the cause of all those crazy surgeries. And so that can be a really interesting life as somebody with hydrocephalus, for the family, for everybody. So we've created some resources. One of those resources is a journal, this journal that people can use to kind of, it's a fill in the blank journal that walks people through that experience of, oh my gosh, we get to have what kind of surgery again, and kind of walks them through that journey. My wife, Catherine, and I love to speak around the country to spread the message of hope to families that are dealing with this as well. So all these things are wrapped up in our nonprofit, and we've been expanding our board lately because the mission that we have to do is big enough that the funds we have to do it are not enough. So if you feel led to donate, go to hydrowithhope.com and donate. Otherwise, if you know somebody that might be a good board member or wants to help in some way, shoot me an email. I'd love to learn more. And then also at the same time, for this show, it doesn't go anywhere without amazing advertisers and sponsors. So if you know of anybody that might want to do that, that loves our message, that what we're doing, and the guests that we've had on that are just amazing over the last 2+ years, I'd love to have that conversation too. So just reach out. I'd love to talk to you. Now, let's get this show on the road here. My guest today, welcome to live TV, everybody. Hit the wrong button. My guest today, his name is Cody Cox. Cody grew up, as he was growing up, he faced challenges with anxiety and depression. So, which is, I don't know, there's so many people out there that have that as part of their life. It's just, it's a thing, he didn't know how to handle it, and neither did therapists and doctors, honestly, that he went to see. And I feel like now people are figuring it out a little bit. We're learning more now. And so as a transformative journey involving lots and lots of self-led research and formal training, Cody is now proud to call himself Utah's nutritional psychotherapist. What a title. We're going to talk about that. He specializes in using food as medicine to support mental health. And he also offers metabolic nutrition services to support overall health, which I absolutely love. So Cody's practice is based in Utah, but he can also help anybody anywhere because he works virtually as well. So can't wait for you to meet him. Let's bring him on the show here and get going. There we go. Cody, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is good stuff, man. I love it when there's somebody that takes that kind of, your approach is cool. That's all I'm saying. I like the way you're doing what you're doing, and I can't wait for us to dive in here and get the word out. The first question I want to ask you, though, is one I ask everybody. And that is that in the throes of when you're dealing with anxiety, depression, whatever condition you're dealing with, when it's at its worst and you're having that rough day, how do you still maintain hope?
That's a difficult one. I think it varies from person to person.
Sure.
For me, I've heard it repeated time and time again in my training. Remember your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? And I think that really gives me hope. And of course, for me personally, a belief in God gives me hope. I believe that I have a
Mm.
purpose here on earth, and I have a purpose in serving those that I help with the nutrition, the mental health, and all the stuff that I do. And so, hope can be a tricky thing for people who don't see that purpose. It's a To me, it's a spiritual crisis if they don't have that hope. But you can find that as you learn to develop that sense of purpose.
Yeah, beautiful. It's true. It's awesome. I love that answer. And faith faith and hope kind of go hand in hand, right? It's if you have that faith in God, then your hope is secure. It's there is no there is no you know it's secure. So so I love that answer. It's awesome. Um, I mean, obviously, your work that you're doing is personal, is deeply personal to you. Can you just take us back to your own experience with mental health and kind of how that first showed up and how that's influencing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so it's hard to say exactly when the depression and the anxiety started. I want to say when I was young, maybe even preschool age.
Ah,
Something happened to where I just I was afraid to talk to people, especially authority figures,
mm,
but also my peers. So like I'd go to school or daycare at the time. I wouldn't talk to anybody except my brother because my brother's only a year younger than me. And so he was usually in school or daycare along with me. Um, and then fast forward a few years, I was in elementary school. My mom took me to therapy. I didn't know why. I just went because my mom took me.
right.
And she never really explained to me why I was in therapy, why I was seeing this lady who was doing these weird things with me, as far as like she did some muscle testing,
Mm.
EMDR, EFT, or tapping, different forms of therapy that to me are normal now because of what I do
Sure.
professionally. But as a child, I was like, why is she having me do this stuff? Why
Right.
is she asking me these questions about my feelings?
What does that have to do with anything? Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I was in high school, I think I was in high school, maybe middle school, I started medication for
Mm.
depression and anxiety. And even at that point, I still didn't really know why, because it was so normal to me to feel depressed and anxious that I didn't know that something was wrong with me. I was
Yeah.
just following what my mom told me to do. She's like, "Oh, you need to take this medication, make sure you're taking it every day." I didn't question it until I was in high school, and I was like, I really deep down, I feel like I shouldn't be taking medication. And so I asked my
Yeah.
mom if I could just not take it anymore. So we worked with my doctor to taper off of it, and I stopped taking medication. Coincidentally, I think when I was in high school, having a healthy social life really made a difference for me,
Mm.
but
Yep.
there was still always something socially difficult. So I had a large group of friends. We would hang out a lot, usually in one particular friend's basement, just because he had the space and
Nice.
a big TV and video games and stuff that we could all play together.
Done. Yeah.
But I had
Totally.
this big group of friends, and that really improved my mental health.
Yeah.
However, there were some difficulties with romantic relationships,
Mm.
and I still had that difficulty with authority figures. And I got curious with that. So as I graduated from high school, I lost all my friends, as we often do. We all go our separate ways after
Yeah.
high school, and so it wasn't really any conflict or anything, but just a change in life.
Totally.
Um, and so I started doing research, because once I got out of high school, I went to a university where I finally had my own unlimited access to the internet. And so I was able to start doing research at my own pace, according to my own interests. And it was, about a year after that, that I met somebody, I got into this romantic relationship, and
Yeah.
she and I were just a really, really good match for each other. And that year was the first year where I experienced happiness. And I was like, wait a minute, what the heck? I've been depressed my whole life.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly,
Oh,
as I look back on that relationship, it wasn't really just about her. It was more about the lifestyle I was living too. And
yeah.
so as I look back, that was about 2006. I look
Okay.
back at how she inspired me to go to the gym. I
Mm.
started going into the gym 5 or 6 days a week for at least an hour or two at a time. I was very, very serious about exercising. So I did weight training and cardio. And now I look back and it's like, oh, well, maybe that was a mistake to do both of those. I should have just stuck with one or the other
Yeah.
because I had a really hard time building muscle. And I have since learned that it's because I was doing too much cardio. So that can
Oh.
actually reduce your muscle mass. But
Mm.
nevertheless, I was exercising regularly, improving my metabolic health, and that was helping to balance my blood sugar. That was encouraging me to eat better. Now, back then, I still had no idea what I was doing as far as nutrition. At that point, it was more like sports nutrition type stuff. So,
Yeah.
protein bars, protein powders. I had a lot of smoothies with
Yeah.
protein boosts, of course. So I'd have
Yeah.
protein powders in my smoothies. Salads, sandwiches. It was, a lot of
Yeah.
stuff like that, which I think most people would consider to be healthy eating in
Sure.
general.
Yeah.
Um, and so it
Overall.
was still a lot better than the way I used to eat. Now, when I was in high school, I ate candy,
Oh, sure.
pizza,
Hmm.
fast food all the time. I drank soda almost every day.
Mm.
And so it was still quite the drastic change from my high school diet to
Yeah.
this point in 2006. So diet and lifestyle factors in that year, I think, really played a major role in my mood. And so I've been on a mission ever since to figure that out. Why did I feel so much better in 2006 than
Mhm.
any other time in my life? And a lot of it really just had to do with physical health and how that played into my mental health.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean I have perfect mental health today? No. No, nobody has perfect mental health. I mean, you could
No.
say the same thing about doctors not having perfect physical health.
Right. Right.
We're still all trying to figure it out because in reality, we're just people with jobs and we're
I
doing our
mean
best.
I mean, to be fair, if you're going to a weight loss clinic and the doctor shows up and he's 600 pounds, you probably leave and
Yeah.
go maybe to another one, but generally speaking, yeah, I mean, doctors aren't perfect. In fact, I think probably doctors and nurses probably eat more fast food than some of the other professions because they have no freaking time,
Yeah.
and so they, and so that's, it's kind of it's almost contradictory, but the system is set that like it's almost impossible not to, but yeah, well, I just real quick, let me just throw this out here because I want to make sure that we say this first. I, thank you for watching, everybody. By the way, whoever is, for all of you that are here, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube and that um, something that Cody says during the show, you're like, hey, you know, light bulb goes off, or you have a question, or you're like, whoa, that's not what I remember from, learning about this stuff, or have a question. Facebook, YouTube, you can just throw a comment in there, or go to this, scan this QR code, go to this website, beavercreekwellness.com. And there is a lot of stuff there, including a place to contact Cody, a calendar. What else is there? What else are they going to find when they go to your website?
So it's mostly information about my philosophy, and I think that's a very important
Mm-hmm.
distinction as far as like my holistic whole foods perspective versus what you might get from a conventional registered dietitian. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, I'm not a dietitian, but the way I understand it is that a dietitian will focus more on the numbers of things. So, tracking calories, tracking macros, things like that. where I'm more interested in the quality of your food. So, I mean, I do take some numbers into account, but I'm more interested in the quality of your food. Where's it coming from? How nutrient dense is it? How does your body process that? Because if you're not properly digesting that food, then it's not really doing you any good.
Right.
So it's more about quality and also listening to the body. But that's really kind of the main thing that you'll find on my website. My philosophy. You'll find information about my services. I offer a few different services.
Right.
And then also, like you were saying, Jeff, there's a place where people can book with me online or contact me through a contact form.
Beautiful. So please, this website and QR code, this will be on the screen for the rest of the show. So just anything that pops into your head that you want to ask, or if something that Cody or I say makes you wonder or something, or a light bulb goes off, just go there, schedule some time, and roll with it. One question I gotta ask, because honestly, I think I have a grasp on this, but it took me a minute, and maybe there's people out there watching going, "What?" So in your intro, I think I used the word psychotherapist, and so there's all these terms like psychologist, psychiatrist, psychotherapist. What's the difference? What?
Psychotherapist is an umbrella term to describe anybody who practices mental health.
Okay.
So that includes, you could say a psychiatrist is a psychotherapist.
Okay.
But they have a medical degree and they can prescribe medication. So typically they focus more on just prescriptions.
Right.
A psychologist is somebody who has a PhD or a PsyD, so a doctorate degree, which typically has more of an academic focus. I have learned, just in having colleagues who are psychologists, I have learned that they don't necessarily have any more clinical training than somebody with a master's degree, but they do have that doctorate because it's more of an academic focus. So typically you'll find them in more of a university setting, where they might be professors. They can practice therapy clinically, and so you'll see that sometimes as well. But the most common type of therapist has a master's degree, and that would be a clinical mental health counselor like myself, or a licensed clinical social worker, or a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Gotcha.
So once again, all of those we can call a psychotherapist. It's anybody who practices mental health. But the more specific terms are psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, or you could say social worker. But yeah, so I mean, we're all just healthcare providers providing mental health services.
Love it. No, that's great. I thank you for that clarification, because psychiatrist, I always kind of knew that psychiatrist and psychologist were different, but you throw that term psychotherapist in there, and it's, I think I've just not understood that that's kind of just overarching,
I like to use the generic term psychotherapist just because I think people have more of an idea of what that means.
Yeah.
'Cause my license says counselor, but I found very quickly after I graduated from graduate school, was if I told people that I was a counselor, they would always follow up with, "What kind of counselor?"
Right.
And I'm like, well, calling myself a clinical mental health counselor is a little bit more of a mouthful than just simply saying psychotherapist. Because once I say that, there's no follow-up question. People just know, oh, okay.
Right. No, because there's so many different counselors out there. Are you a nutrition counselor? Are you a, mental health counselor? Are you a camp counselor? Who knows?
Yeah.
Nobody gonna.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good call. Yeah. Good distinction. Well, cool. Hey, I think this would be a really good spot for a commercial break. So we're going to just take a break for just a minute, make the sponsors happy for a minute, and then we're going to come right back and continue with the story. I'd love for you to dive in a little more about the uniqueness of your approach when we come back, because that's the golden nugget there. So we're going to talk about specifically how Cody does what he does here when we come back. Don't go anywhere. This QR code we'll be back. I'm taking it away. It'll be back at the second segment. So stick around, and we'll see you really soon.
Hey everybody, Craig Tominini here, founder and CEO of Ask Craig T, and I wanted to do a quick reminder about our podcast every Friday, 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. You can find us on YouTube and on all of our social media platforms, so be sure you tune in. Don't miss all the valuable information we're going to give you about how to scale your business using technology.
Hey there. You know, every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
All right, and we're back. Oh, thanks, Cody, for being here. This is good, man. This has been education already. You're clearing stuff up in my brain already, man. This is great. So, so you have a little bit different approach because you focus so much on nutrition and you focus so much on what the body actually needs and not so much the like counting calories and counting carbs and all that stuff. It's more overall, which I love, because nobody wants to count all that stuff. Even if, and that's why a lot of those programs probably don't do as well because people get sick of it, they get tired of it, and they just stop. So first of all, why that approach? What inspired you to do that a little bit different?
So it took me a while to figure out that I wanted to become a psychotherapist. And I think maybe part of it was I had always aspired to being this big successful businessman or attorney or something. I don't know. Like I had bigger dreams for myself.
Sure.
But then I was humbled along the way and I was like, I think my true calling is actually helping people. But when I went to graduate school to become a therapist, I was searching for different schools that had a more holistic approach because I had been, like I mentioned before, I had been doing some online research, trying to find natural ways to overcome depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
And I found a school that actually didn't turn out to be as holistic as I was hoping, but I feel like it was still a good experience. And the reason it wasn't as holistic as I was hoping is because graduate schools have to have a certain curriculum so they can meet state requirements for licensure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, thankfully, the school that I went to, they had what they call an adventure therapy program, an ecotherapy program, art therapy. So like they had
Nice.
these different modalities that a lot of people still haven't really heard of. But to my dismay, there was nothing about nutrition.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wanted to get into nutrition for mental health. Now, after I finished graduate school, I started doing my residency, getting my supervised clinical hours toward independent licensure. And part of that requires continuing education, just like any other healthcare professional who's licensed through their state.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really grateful to find some continuing education specifically for therapists on nutrition for mental health.
Ooh, nice.
Now I can't do that stuff anymore to get credit toward my license because it is very, very basic information. So, it exists, but I need to seek out more advanced stuff that just simply doesn't give me credit. So that's what I'm doing now. But that was kind of my gateway into practicing nutrition for mental health, at least at a professional level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all coming from my personal experience where it's like, I was not taking any medication. I was not seeing a therapist, I was not seeing a doctor, and somehow I was still really happy that year. And so I knew there was something to diet and lifestyle, and I had to figure it out.
So okay. So here's a question: if there's something to that, I'm going to be very facetious here for a second, and painfully sarcastic with this next statement here, but in 12 years of school or whatever that a doctor, like, you want to be an MD, you go through all this school, and like maybe 15 minutes of it is focused on nutrition. Like, seriously, diet, exercise, nutrition. Like, in 12 years of school, you get like an hour class on that.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that not more of a, why have we come so far, fallen so far from the roots of that why is that not more part of all that education?
Well, I was studying the history of medicine recently.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was a couple months ago, but there are different systems of medicine. So we've got allopathic medicine, and most people don't know it by that name, but that is what we would call conventional or modern medicine.
Yep.
And they are all about addressing symptoms.
Yes.
So that's what allopathic means. It means symptom focused, as opposed to naturopathic medicine, which is more focused on the root cause of disease. These different systems of medicine. So there's naturopathic, allopathic, there's traditional Chinese medicine, there's homeopathy.
Yep.
Interestingly, statistically speaking, traditional Chinese medicine is the most popular system of medicine in the world, even today. In America, most people wouldn't believe that. They're like, oh, no, conventional medicine, that's what everybody does. Traditional Chinese medicine is the most popular today, followed by, still not allopathic medicine, but homeopathy is number 2 in the world. And allopathic medicine is a distant number 3. And so we've got these different systems of medicine. And so the reason doctors aren't taught about nutrition is because that's considered more naturopathic, where it's just simply not part of American medical schools because it's not an allopathic approach.
I think I totally agree with you. And I think that's the answer that I've always had in my head, is that's the reason why. What kind of drives me crazy is why isn't at least a little more of that incorporated into that? And why is it so quick to just jump to symptom management and prescribing something to manage the symptom, instead of saying, let's dig a little deeper and see if we can get to that root cause? There's just I don't feel like there's much root cause anything being addressed in that modern medical model.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I have noticed recently that allopaths will never claim that there's a cure for anything.
No, that's true.
So, I mean, as we saw during the pandemic, they were like, oh, there's no cure for COVID. And my whole life, we've been told there's no cure for the common cold, right? And you might say that about diabetes or autism,
cancer,
or depression, cancer.
Yeah. Right.
But that's just how their system of medicine works. It's not about finding cures. It's about addressing symptoms and perpetuating that disease, maybe not on purpose, but to them, there's no cure because they're not addressing that root cause. Now, at the risk of being called a conspiracy theorist, I think that is by design by many doctors. The American Medical Association, for a very long time, I think they still kind of do this. They put out propaganda starting maybe 100 years ago to really convince the American public that allopathic medicine is the medicine of the future. And because even back then, people were really questioning allopathic doctors and saying, I'm not so sure I trust this doctor. I'd rather go to my naturopath. That's been an issue for over 100 years. It's not a new thing with President Trump. And so the American Medical Association, they've really been pushing their marketing in a very aggressive manner to legitimize the profession of allopathic doctors. And so that's kind of what we're coming back out of at this point, where the last few decades, we've been taught that doctors are essentially gods, that we should trust everything they have to say because they're doctors.
See, I have a little different view on that, but yeah. Ooh.
And
Oh,
so now we're coming into more of a space of kind of like where we were 100 years ago. I think people are
yeah.
better educated now, where we're recognizing that allopathic doctors certainly have their place, especially in acute conditions.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
addressing like major surgeries, things that wouldn't otherwise be addressed with diet and lifestyle.
Right.
They're very, very good at addressing acute conditions.
Yep.
However, chronic conditions, which I think you would consider a mental illness more of a chronic condition,
Yep.
they are really terrible at addressing those things because they have no education in nutrition
Yeah.
or these other modalities.
Exactly. I say it all the time and I give enormous credit to surgeons and neurosurgeons and doctors and nurses and all the PAs and everybody that works at those hospitals, man. I I was born with a condition that has required 7 brain surgeries so far, starting at 2 weeks old. And I mean, it's been a thing. I can't You cannot cranial sacral your way out of hydrocephalus. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
you can't chiropractic your way out of brain surgery if you need it. So at the same time, after surgery, what do I do with these side effects? What do I do with the migraines I had? What do I do with the tics that I developed after the most recent surgery? What do I do? Like, those are the things that I went to conventional medicine with, and they had no idea what to do with it. And so that's where the natural world comes in and can really be helpful. So I feel like people should, I think you're right. People are coming around to the fact that you really need both.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
And I mean, I want to make it clear that I would seek out an allopath if I needed something like a surgery or if I had a major
100%.
accident and I
Yeah.
needed immediate care, I would definitely seek out an allopath
Yes.
myself. But when it comes to chronic inflammation, depression, anxiety, ADHD, autism, autoimmunity, brain fog, we've got these chronic conditions that are becoming more and more prevalent in American society that allopathic doctors, frankly, have no idea what to do with.
Right.
They will run all these tests and look at your numbers and say, oh, yeah, you're healthy as a horse. But then you go home feeling like, well, why do I still feel sick if I'm healthy? It's
Yeah.
because they're not taught to recognize these chronic conditions and how to treat them.
Right. And for those of you that have been watching for over the last 4th and 5th season, you will probably recognize the name Michal LeBaron or Bryce Briggs, and they talk about that all the time. It's like, look, their company is one that deals in that kind of stuff. It's like it doesn't have to be lifelong. People think that, oh, once I have diabetes, I always have diabetes, or once I have fibromyalgia, I always have fibromyalgia. But that, according to the doctors, that would be yes, of course you do, and you just manage it with medication. But that's not necessarily the case. Those are some of those things. Talk about getting my tin hat out here for a second, but the conspiracy theorist in me says that really 99% of the conditions out there aren't hereditary, and they don't have to be permanent. But that's that natural world talking, right? That's not the conventional allopathic world talking. So you just got to be careful who you're listening to. That's all.
Yeah.
I think. But I don't know. Do you do a lot of education with that kind of thing? Like when you're talking to people that you're working with, are you kind of tying in some of that? Like, hey, by the way, this is what you've probably heard over your whole life, but have you considered this?
It really depends on the case that I'm working with. So with some people, I have politely corrected them, and like for example, I had one guy come to me a couple years ago who was like, well, I've got multiple sclerosis. He was coming to me for therapy though, and I don't think he realized how holistic I am as a practitioner. But I asked him about diet. I was like, well, tell me about your diet. What are you eating?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm following the Mediterranean diet because I believe that's a really healthy diet. And I don't necessarily disagree with that.
What is
but
that diet?
The Mediterranean diet. So essentially, this is the diet that most people in southern Italy would be eating. So people who are living in the near the Mediterranean Sea. So it's a lot of fish, not really any red meat. You might eat some poultry, nuts, beans, seeds. It's pretty much a low-fat diet.
Okay,
but
not a lot of bread, not a lot of dairy.
You'll eat some bread, yeah. You'll have some dairy, but the reason I think it's a good option, at least from the standard American diet, is that you are switching to whole foods.
Yes.
And that is why people do better on the Mediterranean diet. I'm not saying that it's an optimal diet, especially if you don't live in the Mediterranean area. So if you don't live in southern Italy, probably you could do a little bit more with red meat and some things that are a little bit more locally appropriate and seasonally appropriate to your area. And so I do give some people some education on a little bit of the history of medicine, the fact that there are different types of medicine, and there are different reasons for the different types of medicine. So they're not all bad, and they're not all the answer to everything either. So we have to be willing to pick and choose according to our conditions and what it is that our body actually needs.
That's important too. I'm glad you said that, because there was a time, I don't remember when it was exactly, maybe it was like the late 90s, early 2000s. It was like, everybody should do the Atkins diet, or everybody should go keto, or everybody should do, it's like, careful. It's not a one size fits all kind of thing, guys. It was almost like, if you weren't doing it, what's wrong with you? But it's true. It's so individual. I think that's another thing we're finally figuring out now. So yeah, I love that. And I love that that's how your program is designed around, is that it's individual needs,
Yeah. So in nutrition school, it was called bioindividuality. So recognizing that everybody has different biological needs. Now, I would argue that there is a diet that's right for everyone, and that's simply a whole food diet. But the bioindividuality comes in when we talk about which whole foods you should be eating and how you should be eating them. Because, for example, I feel like I have an issue with corn right now, but you might be able to eat corn and be just fine. And so that's where that bioindividuality comes in, where something that might be healthy for one person might not be healthy for you right now.
Right. That's true. It's true. It's so important to, realize the individuality of all of that, because that's important for sure. Yeah. I love that, man. I had a thought about something that I was going to ask you about, and it completely fell out of my head. So, but I tell you what, let's do it. I think this will help. Let's go to our last commercial break, and then hopefully that'll jog my memory and I'll remember the question. And then we'll talk about maybe some testimonials, or maybe some, we'll continue the conversation after the break. Please stick around, and we'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
Hi, I'm Jake, co-founder and CEO of One Hope. My friends and I started this company in 2007 out of the back of this truck on a mission to enrich people's lives through wine. Today, we've grown into a state-of-the-art Napa Valley winery that proudly houses a portfolio of award-winning wines which have touched lives through over 40,000 nonprofits at home and around the globe. And it's happening every day. Being rooted in local communities and contributing to initiatives that uplift neighborhoods, celebrate cultures, and promote community. It's what got us here. You see, through every bottle sold, your purchase can make a direct impact on the causes you care about. One Hope's cause of choice has given back over $10 million and counting.
Hi everyone, I'm Andy.
And I'm Minna.
We're the hosts of Chronically Healthy Life.
Join us Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time on Vitality TV to see how we flip the idea of chronic on its head and create chronic health in our bodies, minds, finances, and relationships right here on E360 TV.
All right, and we are back. Thank you all, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much for watching and for being here. And we're in our last segment already. Time flies when you're having fun. And Cody, I think during the break we were talking a little bit, and you said that we wanted to cover something here. And I mean, the name of the show is Invisible Condition, after all. When we talk about mental health, mental illness, mental, things like that, that's like the ultimate invisible condition, isn't it?
Totally. I mean, mental illness is far more common today than it was even just 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
And I mean, of course, I look at it holistically and it's like, well, yeah, it's because of diet and lifestyle. We've declined in the way that we're living, and we've declined in the way that we're eating and the way that we're taking care of each other. But as far as my personal experience goes, and this is really what I wanted to share, was my personal experience having this invisible condition, because from an outward appearance, I appear to be healthy. I can walk, I can talk. I don't have any special equipment to help me live my life.
Right.
But I shared my story earlier with having anxiety and depression. What I did not share was how I struggled in school, not just with anxiety and depression. So yeah, I had a low mood, and yeah, I was terrified to get up and give a book report or to even make new friends.
Right.
But I really struggled to learn. I remember when I was in middle school, I must have been in 7th grade, and I went to the school psychologist. His name was Dr. Bob.
Nice.
And once again, it was one of those situations where, like, I didn't know why I was there. I just knew that I was called in. And frankly, I saw it as an excuse to get out of class. And interestingly, when I was at that same school, I went to group therapy, and to me, it's an excuse to get out of class. But why did I want to get out of class so badly? Because I hated sitting in class and listening to, I kind of think of like Charlie Brown movies when the adults go, wah, 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 wah.
Right.
That's really kind of how it was for me sitting in school growing up. Like, somehow I did okay in elementary school. I still learned to read and write. I still learned math. I was really good at spelling, but there were certain subjects that I would just sit and literally watch the clock and wait for the bell to ring.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until high school that I started taking my grades more seriously. But even that whole time, I was thinking, I don't know why I can't think clearly. Why do I struggle to learn as well as my friends?
Yeah.
And even one of my closest friends in high school was like, you take easy classes. And he was taking like advanced placement classes, getting concurrent enrollment, college credit. And now I haven't talked to him in a long time, but last I knew, he wasn't even going to college. And it's like, why did you put yourself through that if you weren't even going to go to college anyway?
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, like, that feels so unfair that he's judging me that I take easy classes. It wasn't really that I was seeking out easy. It's just that when I was a senior in high school, I had the bulk of my credits done, and I just wanted to have a good senior year.
Right.
So I was taking classes that sounded fun, that would still allow me to graduate.
Yep.
But then it wasn't until I actually was in graduate school that I realized I think I've had ADHD pretty much my whole life, because that was never something that was discussed with me. That school psychologist that I mentioned, Dr. Bob, he wrote up this really long evaluation, and I remember I found it in my mom's desk at home and just in one of her files that said Cody. And I was like, oh, there's stuff in here about me. And I found this psychological evaluation. And I remember reading, Cody shows signs of a possible learning disorder.
Ooh.
And I remember, like, I think I was home alone at the time, and I just remember breaking down into tears.
Yeah.
And thinking, wow, I'm really broken.
Mm.
And ever since high school, though, I've had jobs where I felt like I was harshly criticized for not paying attention or not learning as fast as they thought I should.
Yeah.
I've gone to school, and I seem to do better with online school because I can do it more at my own pace.
Yep.
And I can control my environment in a way that helps me focus better.
Yeah.
But that is one of those things I mentioned earlier, how I don't have perfect mental health. No therapist does.
Nobody does.
I am still working on that particular aspect of my mental health. It has improved, but it's still not perfect. And so that's really kind of the main message that I wanted to share, is that mental illness is an invisible condition where on the outside you might appear to be healthy. People are going to judge you and get impatient with you for not doing as well as they think you should do.
Right.
But there's stuff like this going on inside of everybody, whether it's stress, anxiety, depression, ADHD, maybe something even more severe like schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Or even if it's not those things, maybe it's situational things. You've got trouble at home. Maybe there's an abusive situation happening at home that other people don't know about. Or maybe you're not sleeping well. Like,
yeah. No, that's a big one. That impacts people more than they think. Sleep's important, man. Yeah. Or I was thinking traumatic brain injury, I mean, kids, I've lost count of the number of traumatic brain injuries I've had with all the brain surgeries, but even falling off playground equipment at school. And, kids probably have more than people even realize, that's invisible, and that can definitely affect mental clarity, how well you pay attention, how you appear in class. I mean, but it's all invisible. Yeah. It's crazy. And that is the credit to the teacher that recognizes that and says, oh, okay, maybe we do this with Cody instead of, this, or it's just a simple tweak,
But I think that's another challenge. My wife is a teacher, and she has told me time and time again how difficult it is to recognize the challenges of individual students when you have a classroom of 25 to 35 students.
Right.
It's like you can recognize, oh, yeah, this student is struggling, but you don't really have the time to sit and figure out why when you've got this other student that's bullying or this other student that's misbehaving. And it can be a difficult thing.
Right. And maybe that kid is, bullying or bored because they're moving ahead faster, or they're more advanced. And so you've got this large swath of different abilities and different learning styles and stuff. And yeah, it's true. And the classrooms are so big sometimes. Yeah. Your wife is, she's awesome. I've never met her, but I already know she's awesome because she's a teacher. So that is not an easy job. So
yeah, I know I couldn't do it just with having a room full of people. That really makes my symptoms go bad. So I mentioned how I tend to do better online because I can focus better. I can control my environment. If there's any sort of if there's movement in my peripheral vision or a sound off in the distance, that catches my attention more than the person who's speaking directly to me. Sure. And so it is really nice for me to be a therapist and have a private office where I can make it quiet and soothing and not really have those distractions.
Or I bet with this modern climate of business and networking and all that stuff, it's probably nice to be able to just get on a Zoom call with somebody in your office where nobody else is bothering you versus going to a Chamber of Commerce after hours meeting where there's 200 people in a room. Right. And I agree with you there. I'm totally a fan. Yeah. So it's true. Yeah. Nowadays makes sense. Yeah. Well, what else do we want to, we've got, I don't know, 3 minutes left. What would you like to leave the audience with in these last couple minutes?
Well, I'd like to just wrap it up with the discussion on invisible conditions. You might have an invisible condition. In fact, most likely you do, considering the statistics of mental illness these days. But I want everyone to remember that those around you also have something. And so if you get impatient with your roommate or your family member or even like your coworker, remember they might have something that you can't see. And maybe you don't have the time or the patience or the humility to actually talk to them about what that condition might be. Or maybe it's so personal that you just don't want to ask because you just want to be respectful. But try to be patient with each other. I think that's one thing that we could all use a little bit more of, is patience for our loved ones, for our colleagues, for our classmates, roommates, whoever. Because chances are, if someone's doing something you don't like, they've got something going on that you don't recognize.
Yeah.
Or even if they don't, you've got something going on that you don't
Right.
recognize.
That's obviously causing you to respond in that way.
Yeah.
You might not even know what's going on, but you know there's something.
Yeah, totally.
Nice. Love that. And that is such a good kind of public service announcement for everybody, man. Seriously, go easy on them. Go just think and have compassion, because you never know who's living with what, or struggling with something. So it's true. Well, man, Cody, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for that last segment, man. I mean, it's true. Invisible conditions are everywhere. And I think this has been a really good reminder to just keep your head on a swivel and keep your eyes open and be compassionate. So thank you so much for that reminder. And thank you for being here and joining us on the show.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right. Whoops. There we go. All right. There we go. Oh, almost hit the wrong button. Welcome to live TV, everybody. Well, thank you for being here, everybody. This has been awesome. I'm so glad that we got to do this, and I'm so glad that you were here. And thank you for watching. If this is your first show, welcome. We're so glad you're here. If you've been watching for 2 years, thank you. You know the drill. If you've been here a while, like, subscribe, share, follow, all the things on social media. Thank you so much for being here, and join us for our next show, which will be Tuesday, August 5th. And till then, have an amazing day. We'll see you next time. Whoop.